1 in 68 children in the U.S. suffer from autism. Every year, Autism Speaks hosts walks across the U.S. to raise awareness and money to enhance the lives of people with autism. For Evangeline Iyemura, it's a community affair as her family and friends walk in honor of her son, a part of Evan's team, Evan's Angels. Hi, welcome to Impact. I'm here with Evangeline Iyemura, autism warrior mom, and her lovable son, Evan, to discuss how he refuses to let his disability disable him from living his life to the fullest and achieving his goals. And later on in the show, I'll be joined with my sister, Jeecole Perkins, to discuss how she overcomes the challenges of being diagnosed with autism as an adult. Evangeline, Evan, welcome to Impact.
Thank you, Jeri, for having us.
Yes. So Evangeline,
yes,
you are the co-chair of the Autism Speaks Walk in Northern California.
Yes, I am.
So you are very involved, and can you discuss how and mother with a son with autism has ignited a passion within you to advocate for people who suffer with autism?
Well, you know, this life is an interesting life. Nobody chooses it. It's given to you. So when Evan was diagnosed at 2.5, we really didn't have any resources, didn't know where to go. We were part of the regional center, which has been wonderful for us. They started with therapists right away, but the day in and day out of how to handle a child on the spectrum was, you don't have a book for that. So you kind of go through a little bit of a mourning stage in respect of your child has a specific diagnosis and you wonder what's going to happen to this child as they grow up. But in the meantime, you either can fall into depression about it, quite honestly. I think I did that for a couple of years, or you can do something about it. And that's the road that I chose to take for Evan. And in doing so, I've been able to meet some wonderful families along this journey who have similar stories, different stories, all on the spectrum. And quite frankly, how can you not speak up? How can you not help to advocate for these wonderful human beings that are quote unquote autistic and on the spectrum? Yeah.
So we talk about a spectrum, and you know, there's different levels depending on the functionality.
Correct.
But Evan has definitely defied the odds. I mean, he is just growing and developing, and you speak about him being diagnosed at 2.5. How do you feel like his diagnosis so early on in his childhood has been a tool and a resource for you all to help him develop?
Well, I genuinely believe now, actually, it was my husband who was the one that said, there's something wrong, we need to have him checked out. I played into society saying, oh, you know, he's a boy, he's a little slower, etc. But in taking that road and finding out with the diagnosis so young, what I have found is that the younger we can diagnose our children, it's easier to try to get them some help, some therapists. And the state of California has a Latherman Act that does provide for some of these services through regional centers. If you catch the child early enough, you can speak leaps and bounds to helping them. When Evan was first diagnosed, they did tell us they weren't sure if he was going to be able to speak. And I catch myself sometimes saying, oh, if he'd just be quiet for a minute. And then I have to remember, you know, God gave us the blessing of that he has speech. I have friends that have children that are nonverbal, so I understand the other side of that. Yeah.
So we talk about a stigma, and that stigma being not just for autistic people, but anyone in society who has disabilities, who are different and unique. And I feel like it's so important for people to understand that their disability is a difference. It's something that makes them unique. You think different, you are different, so be different and be authentic.
Exactly.
But that stigma has shut down so many people from seeking help, so many people from learning coping mechanisms and developing tools and seeking the resources to help, you know, improve and grow. how do we as a society work on eliminating that stigma for autistic people so they feel free and independent to be who they truly are and seek that help?
So that is a great question, and that is probably the question that is on a lot of parents' minds. You want to have your child grow up into a world that's full of diversity, that loves unconditionally, and how do you get other people to see that? 1 in 68, unfortunately, when Evan was first diagnosed, it was 1 in 150. So to have it now at 1 in 68, and actually in boys, it's 1 in 42. So everybody knows somebody that, if it's not in their family, does know somebody now with quote unquote autism. And so it's a matter of educating the world, educating society that everybody is not just different, but everybody has some sort of ability. At the end of the day, what I want is no different from what any other parent wants. I want my son to be happy. I want him to be able to contribute to society, and I want him to be able to, handle life and do what he needs to do once he becomes a young adult. And the way to do that is to really continue to educate people. This road that was given to us with autism, at least for me personally, has put me onto a board that helps with all different types of special abilities, if you will. And it's helped me open my eyes to not just autism, but to all the other different types of special abilities that are out there, and hoping that people will become smarter on how they handle differences, just on handling differences, because everybody has something to contribute in this life.
Yeah. Now, minority communities in particular, it seems like there's a big issue surrounding mental illness, and it's looked down upon and frowned upon in terms of, oh, if you have a disability, you're crazy, or oh, if you have a disability, you're not smart enough, or you're not good enough. And it's like, as minorities, we're already dealing with being minorities, and there's so many issues racially, ethnicity-wise, and culturally that we're facing. So why put another issue on top of an issue by frowning upon people within our own communities?
Yeah, unfortunately, we're our own worst enemies sometimes, because for whatever reason, minorities have set standards for themselves. And like anybody, you should set high standards for yourself personally. What has happened is that if there is any imperfections in our minority systems, for whatever reason, sometimes we hold that against ourselves and we shy away. I know that one of the reasons why I don't mind being vocal is because I'm a minority, and I want to help to educate people that I didn't do anything wrong. That our family didn't do anything wrong, that we were blessed with a child with autism. And quite frankly, I don't think I would change that, because it's opened so many doors to looking at the world a different way. If we had continued the path that we were going on, we probably would have just been the boring status quo and not understand the world around us as well as we do now. And I don't think I'd have any passion and fight in me the same for any other situation, unless until we had Evan and something meaningful came into our life.
Definitely. And we gotta touch on the issue now. We know school systems have cut funding, regardless of disabilities, or not, programming. They've cut funding, and that affects children.
Yes.
And when we look at children being affected, and we take an even deeper look into, children with disabilities being affected, these children are growing into adults.
Exactly.
And how do we tackle that in terms of that funding being cut, that's taking away from resources in the classroom, that's helping develop, children with disabilities so that they can get the tools they need in order to be able to be acclimated in society when they become adults and be a part of mainstream society.
Exactly, and I think what's really sad is the recent turns of just decisions that are being made in our government now of where can we cut, or what is really quote unquote valid or validating those with special needs or not. The schools are finding that they're already stretched for their budgets, and it's trickled into the special needs classrooms where a teacher would maybe have a couple of teacher assistants that would help them, and now they're finding that they may, if they're lucky, have one or maybe have none. And although the special needs classes are a little bit smaller than a quote unquote mainstream class, corralling 12 kids to help them with all different needs and all different learning abilities and physical abilities is much more difficult to do when you do not have extra staff on help. I think what we need to do as a society, just in general, is to remind our government, our politicians, our city officials that education is a right, and education is what's going to help better all our kids, regardless of their abilities or special needs. And taking away from that facet of life where it is supposed to be something that we should be concentrating on is not where we need to go for cutting for funds. We need to be smarter on how we're running our world. And we need to put into the fact that a lot of these kids with any type of special needs have so many abilities that they can help with society. So taking away the very foundation of that is actually going to cost us, taxpayers, more money in the future, because we will have young adults that may not have had a chance to learn and to do something to contribute into society. So we're not helping ourselves by doing what we are currently doing now.
Now, we know power comes in having a platform, and you have a great platform with Autism Speaks. And how have you been able to use your platform to develop a political platform and push for legislation to be passed on behalf of the autistic community?
Well, so for me personally, I think that it isn't necessarily about me. I think what it is that there are other families like myself and our family that are having to be more savvy than the average person, because it's our kids that are losing out every time something gets passed or not passed. So what you're finding is that a lot of parents are forced into a political arena, or at least understanding their rights more than anybody would normally do on a daily basis, just so that they can fight for the right for their child to be given the normal things that a special needs individual should have. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't know about half of the things that are out there, quite honestly, if I didn't have this little guy,
So what are some of the challenges that Evan and your family have dealt with autism and with being a part of the autistic community and just embracing his disability?
Well, I think early on, so Evan's sitting here really quietly. Early on, he would have some meltdowns. And on a daily basis, I was gauging whether or not we should go out. The one thing that we wanted to make sure as a family is I did not want to be that parent that was going to be locked up in the house with their child. I needed Evan to be exposed to the world. And more so, I wanted the world exposed to Evan, because they need to see my son just like they need to see some of my other friends' lovely children too as well. But we've had our share of people who have thought he was just being a brat when he's having a meltdown. We've had our share of things that would trigger not normal behavior. His safe haven was our car. So if Evan was not handling maybe a situation, maybe going to Target and too many things around and too much sensory, I've learned how to read my son. So my husband and my daughter would still go out and continue shopping, and we'd head back to the car where he was able to breathe again. And we, the next day, just try again. And the beauty of what worked for us, and I can't say that it will work for every family, but I think it was just continuing to put him out there so that he could get used to the different sounds, the different noises, foods, just obviously just society. And then again, having people understand that he is different. There is not a look to autism. I'm sorry to disappoint a lot of people. I've literally had some acquaintances say, but he doesn't look like there's anything wrong with him. And I have to take a breath because they mean it very kindly. They don't mean anything malicious, but they're looking for some sort of sign on his forehead that says autistic. And none of our kids will have that, you know.
So you're obviously an empowered woman. You come into a room and you can tell, it lights up, and you just have this presence about you that just exhibits strength and the ability to just keep on pushing, to just have love in your heart for everyone.
Oh, thank you.
So how have you empowered yourself to empower people within the autistic community, their families, and use your role to uplift people?
Well, I think first of all, you know, we're this silent club. So when you meet another parent who has a child on the spectrum, or for me, even just special needs, there's that knowing nod, and there's that knowing glimpse of what their life might be like, because I know what my life is at home. And I appreciate the very kind words. I think what I just do as an individual is the right thing. And I think that if we, parents and friends who are with our children and also getting to know the right people, the more you can just educate people that differences are great and everybody has something to contribute, you should and will be listened to. And quite frankly, I won't take anything from anybody either. So if on the very rare occasion that somebody has said something, I try to not put a label on my son, but I will put a label that Evan has autism, but let me tell you what he can do. Mm-hmm. Don't you tell me what he can't do.
Yes.
Because I won't stand for that.
Mm-hmm. That is powerful.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that everyone has differences. Every autistic person has differences.
Right.
So how do you recommend that parents and family deal with each child for who they are and recognizing who they are beyond their disability, to tap into something within them to help them flourish in their own right?
That's a great question. You know, I think what you have to do is come to terms within yourself of knowing what your child can and cannot do. And I think that once you understand that piece of it, you're able to guide yourself to help guide them. And I know one time somebody said, well, what does your son do? What's his trick? And I thought, well, that's interesting. What do you mean by what's his trick? Mm-hmm. Oh, do you mean like you throw the toothpicks on the ground and he can count them like Rain Man? Or are you talking about he can just look at one thing and draw? Mm-hmm. Well, everybody has some sort of an ability. Mm-hmm. So let's not call it a trick, but let's help him, just like any other quote unquote normal child, find out what they're good at inside of them. And the difference is going to be he may not understand exactly what he's great at. So we're going to have to encourage him to say that is what it seems to come natural for you, buddy. Let's see. And I can tell you right now, this guy has nothing on, Google Maps and Yahoo Maps and Apple Maps have nothing on this kid. He knows exactly how to get to certain places. He knows streets. He knows addresses. If it was a trick, I guess, it's just something he is really great at. And he just has a lot of other abilities. So for me, parents need to tap in just like they would any of their other kids and see what their talents are. And I think, if anything, don't allow society to put their values on you, because I think that's part of what holds it back. It's, well, my son or my daughter is not the same as, the other kids that are down the street. So what? Now we need to show these other families what it means to have a little bit of difference in their world. And I'm really blessed. I've got a lot of great friends and who've done an amazing job of just looking at Evan as Evan. And I don't have to explain him. I don't have to explain my son to their grandkids or to anybody they meet. And if somebody starts to say something, sometimes my friends jump in first before I even do, and correcting them. So that's the power and influence that I look for, is that I can say it all day long, but if I can have my family, my friends say it with me, in numbers, we're going to be able to help show the world what kind of diversity it should have.
As a society, we talk about diversity and inclusion in terms of the workforce, having a diverse workforce, giving minorities, equal opportunity in the education system. But it seems like we want to have morals, we want to have values, we want to be looked at as people of high moral standards.
Exactly.
But when you look at the root of a lot of systematic issues that we have, do we really have morals? We got to look at ourselves as people and kind of look at ourselves in the mirror, like, who are we truly?
Exactly.
And how are our decisions affecting communities, whether it be the autistic community, minority communities, females,
Correct.
Whomever.
Correct.
So it's like, what does that vision of diversity and inclusion look like going forward as a society?
Well, I think you've touched on exactly a lot of things. I mean, I'm involved with other things at work that for women as well, and for minorities as well, and then I have disabilities as well. And I think what happens is that once you become passionate about one, you start to become passionate about all. And the beauty of Silicon Valley is slowly they're understanding that. And so in Silicon Valley, you have women's groups that have popped up and diversity groups that have popped up. And now we're starting to see major companies that are recognizing that there are a lot of individuals on the spectrum and that they need to help them. Let me tell you, I guarantee you if you're looking at 1 in 42 quote unquote boys, those are also males, and those are a lot of engineers that we have in Silicon Valley that are amazing. They don't necessarily want to put a label on themselves, and I totally respect that. But our larger companies needs to acknowledge and accept that we have some amazing people and up and coming young adults that we can put into our workforce and be able to contribute extensively into our workforce. We just need to learn on how to help them on that journey. And I think that we need to do that worldwide, and I think we need to do that within our corporations as well, because a lot of these young adults and kids are going to be able to contribute once they're of age.
Now, we know Evan has a lot to contribute.
Yeah.
Excellent student in school. What grade are you in, Evan? Middle school?
Yeah. What grade are you going into?
8th grade.
8th grade. Look at you. So, Evan, I hear you're very bright.
Yes.
Make honor roll every semester.
Yes.
So what does it mean to you to have so much support from your family and friends?
So I always help. I always help mom. I always help mom, grandma, Tita Jojo, Tita Debbie, Daddy, mom. And they are good. They are good because they're nice, they're friendly, they're awesome.
They love you very much.
Yes.
So your Autism Speak Walk team, who walks in your honor, what's the name of your team?
Evan's Angels.
And who's a part of Evan's Angels?
Tita Debbie, Daddy, Mama.
Your family?
You're going to name them all. We have about 25 on the team.
Wow.
And Evan also is a silent mascot for the Alpha Z Deltas from San Jose State, too, who are part of our walk every year. And some of them have taken a liking to Evan, and vice versa.
So you're quite popular, Evan.
Yes.
And I know, I can just imagine what your future plans are with doing so well in school and having Evan's Angels and being an advocate within your own community. What are some of your goals, Evan?
My goals are I do good. I do good in school. Like, I get good grades. I do good work.
And what did you want to be when you grew up? You told me today.
I like to be a chef.
Aww.
I like to help. I like to help Grandma cook. I like to get Grandma the ingredients Grandma needs for cooking food.
So you're very helpful.
Yeah.
Evan, you have such a big personality. We're just seeing a little bit of it here because I know that you just have everybody cracking up at everything you say and you're so friendly. So, Evan, what would you like the world to know about you? What would you like the Impact viewers to know about you? Evan, in one word, what is it?
Evan.
What do you want them to know about you?
Oh, my name is Evan. When I impact, I would like to impact my family, my family, helping the event, give away autism bracelets, pins, flyers away, giving away.
So you want people to get to know who you are.
Yeah.
Well, Gigi, Evangeline,
Yeah.
that's what they call you. That's her nickname, everyone. But Evangeline, Evan, you all are true impactors. And we thank you for coming on Impact as guests, and we hope to raise awareness for autism. And for everyone who doesn't know, Autism Awareness Month is in April. So there will be walks across the Bay Area, across the U.S. for people with autism. And we encourage everyone to just get behind this movement. And it could be your son, it could be your daughter, it could be your brother, it could be your grandchild, it could be anyone who suffers from autism. And as we as a community need to empower the autistic community in support of them. So register for Autism Speak Walks and get involved. Thank you all for being guests on the show. And up next, my sister Jeecole Perkins will be on the show to discuss her experiences with autism. Stay tuned. Jeecole Perkins received a BA in chemistry and a paralegal degree from Heald College, but there's one thing that many people may not know about her. She suffers from a form of autism known as Asperger's syndrome. Jeecole, welcome to Impact. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
So Jeecole, you're my sister. This is my sister, everybody. I'm so excited to have her on Impact. And, you know, this episode or segment just is very sentimental for me because to have a sister with autism and to see you and to see the struggles that, you know, you go through every day, but to know everything you've achieved and to just see you really fight. Like, you every day, is a new day, and you continue to just persevere through the challenges that you're faced. And I admire that about you, Jeecole. And I know there's so much about you that a lot of people don't know. So I want to help you discover, and help the viewers see that there's more to autism than meets the eye. Like Gigi mentioned, Evangeline mentioned earlier, you can't look at someone and tell they have autism, but it's something very significant in their life. So was there a turning point in your life that you realized you had autism?
The first time I noticed that something was wrong was, I think, in middle school, when I didn't do well on a test and I couldn't actually deal with it like normal people do. I literally had a breakdown.
So you panicked, and is that a part of, the emotions and the mood? Do you have any emotions that you don't understand or mood changes that you experience?
This one time I was at my grandfather's funeral when I was 18, and I noticed everybody was crying except me, and I wondered why I didn't cry, because I loved him and I missed him. But I think it was my mom had said that it was okay not to cry, or someone else. I don't really remember.
Okay. So these are differences that you see in yourself. Do you ever feel like you're different from other people per se, and you can't relate to other people because of Asperger's syndrome?
Yes, I tend to take things literally. At work, one of the managers was not really upset, but a little in between upset and annoyed that I put out these bags with no handles, because she usually likes the bags with handles, and I told her I was sorry, and she said not to worry about it.
Now, just to clarify, Asperger's syndrome is a form of autism that affects the social aspect of the brain. So as we mentioned earlier, a spectrum. Typically, people with Asperger's are higher up on the spectrum, but socially, their skills are different than other people. So Asperger's syndrome, when were you diagnosed, Jeecole?
I was 22 years old, and it was in January of 2001.
Okay. And after you were diagnosed, what are some of the steps you took to learn about your disability and help yourself cope with your disability?
I was in therapy, and I also took medicine to deal with the depression aspect of it.
So do you feel like since then, since your diagnosis, you've grown in any ways?
I tend to learn more about myself every day. And every day is like a new learning experience for me.
So what are some of the things you learn about yourself on a day-to-day basis?
And I learned that I tend to not do things differently than what is told to me, because I think that my way is better. But sometimes there's a certain way to do things, and I think I failed.
Failed. So, as we mentioned earlier, everyone is different, and your disability makes you unique in who you are. And I've seen throughout my childhood and my time growing up with you that you are very unique and you're very special. So do you feel like your disability is something that makes you unique, or do you feel like your disability is something that holds you back?
I think in some ways it makes me unique, because I'm not like other people and I think differently than other people. But sometimes I think it holds me back, especially when trying to get a job and trying to relate to the interviewer.
Okay, so how do you cope with this on a day-to-day basis? how do you deal with being different?
I try my best to do things and to get the job done.
So you've had a lot of success with your education and graduating with 2 degrees, and you're continuing to just absorb knowledge, and you're a freelance writer. Is that something you're passionate about?
Yes.
So what about writing excites you?
It's telling something to people in or outside of an audience in my own voice, in my own way.
So Jeecole, if there was one thing you could tell the world about autistic people, what would you tell them?
That they're like one of a kind, and they are not like strange or like outcasts, but a different kind of people that see the world in a different way.
Right. So is there any, words of encouragement that you can give to people who have Asperger's syndrome in terms of stepping out of their comfort zone and not being afraid to fail, not being afraid to, be the status quo, but achieving something that maybe other people don't believe they can achieve?
I'm thinking that they should try different things and like not let life pass them by. Like, if you believe in something, try hard to be successful.
Speaking of success, you've had a lot of that. So what are your goals in the future moving forward?
I want to get a better job than what I have now, and I've been trying my best to do that. I've been sending out resumes, and through my freelance writing, I've been sending out proposals and my cover letter.
Do you feel support from your family and community?
Yes, especially from my family, from my parents and my other sister.
How have they supported you through your journey?
They try to understand me and try to accept me for who I am.
Well, Jeecole, you're a true impactor, and I know we don't always get along. We have fought many a times over the years and had to been broken up, and my parents can attest to that. But I truly do love you, and I'm thankful that you're my sister. You teach me a lot about myself every day. So thank you, Jeecole, for coming on Impact, and I'm happy that you got to just tell a little bit of your story.
You're welcome.
Thank you for tuning into Impact. Follow Impact on all social media platforms, and I look forward to seeing you all in the fall at Lincoln University, Missouri's JCTV, where Impact will be providing coverage all year long. So stay tuned. Until next time, stay blessed.